Hey, welcome to StoryDads. We're back here with our good friend and guest extraordinaire, Jordan Crowder. And what they decided to inflict on me and on you is Ralph Breaks the Internet. So you've had enough of us adoring movies and talking them up. This one's just a hate fest, guys, and I'm going to apologize up front. But stay tuned. Come and despise this movie with us. Here we go.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Are you guys ready to rumble this week?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Is it going to be a rumble? Is it going to be like the Encanto episode where it was a passive rumble?
No, Encanto was very passive. This is going to be highly aggressive. Jordan, welcome back. We're excited to have Jordan back with us today on the Story Dads. And today we're discussing Ralph Breaks the Internet. For those that have been with us before, that have listened to our episodes, we're usually very positive about the movies that we review. We look for the best in things. And I despise this movie.
Well,
this is the first.
Most of the time, there's redeeming features to the movies that we review.
Yeah. We're looking for the best. We're trying to show like where the good is. Jordan, You're a great friend. You're an incredibly positive dude who we know. And so if you got any chance of trying to balance us out, because I cannot stand this movie. We did Wreck-It Ralph 1. It was episode 5. That movie will always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorites. And the proportion to which I love Wreck-It Ralph 1 is how much I despise Wreck-It Ralph 2.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. So the first one is such a great movie, and my son loves it a lot too. And we love watching it. I've watched it 1,000 times. And then I put on Wreck-It Ralph 2. I was like, oh, we haven't seen this one yet. And he did not stick with it. And like within like 30 minutes, he was 30 minutes. He was, off doing something else, putting on costumes or beating something with a sword. And then when I'd say, hey, do you want to watch Wreck-It Ralph again later? He would say, yeah, but not the one with the internet is always what he'd say. So neither of us really liked it. Yeah.
Did he qualify it at all?
No,
he's able to get.
He's not really there yet in terms of language, in terms of being able to express what he doesn't like about it. But it's just kind of a.
Well, Dad, I didn't like it, but I like this part of it, and this part seems special. He's 3.
And my kid doesn't necessarily get very far either with that. But it's a hypothesis of mine that kids will, on an intuitive level, gravitate towards like stronger stories.
Yeah.
And so what bums me out is that if we can just construct a world where there aren't any strong stories and they're all just various flavors of constructionism, that kids are just sort of left with malnourished and with their taste buds scourged. And then there's no choice but to sit there and watch YouTube, which is part of the referendum on this movie.
Yeah, right.
It's like, in a world where all the marketing executives are going, what do we do with movies? Kids just watch YouTube now. Let's make a movie about YouTube that's so bad that they would rather watch YouTube. It's like, what? Where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so Micah, you had not seen this movie before. I was like, we got to do an episode on this because we got to do something in juxtaposition to like, the beautiful and true and good and all that we do. Like, and I think this one is kind of but what was your reaction in just watching this? Like,
I feel like there's a couple of headings, and one of them, I love that, is like something to juxtapose goodness, truth, and beauty is this movie. And then another one, what I would call it is gaslight, girl boss, gatekeep. That's the other one I would call this one. And I don't know if you guys remember that, like that meme was going around for a minute, but
yeah.
Okay. So like, you know how it is as dads and as parents, the moms that listen to this know this too. Very rarely do you get to encounter and experience a new movie that your kids are drawn to, like all in one sitting. It's usually sort of peppered out, and you kind of get it like fragments, like when you used to download stuff off Napster and BitTorrent, and you'd get like little pieces of it, and then eventually you got the whole file. And that's how I experience most of my kids' movies. Is like when K-pop Demon Hunters was the thing. It's like, oh, I catch this scene, and then later you get to sort of construct a story out of it. Well, Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet lasted so few repetitions in my house. I think my kids have also seen it maybe once.
Yeah.
And that never happens. Like they'll watch even the other garbage movies like Cars 4 or Cars 3 and Toy Story 4. They'll even watch those like twice. And this one didn't even make it that far. And so I had seen like 2 scenes maybe. And so yes, this was my first time experiencing the whole thing. And I swear I really didn't anticipate it being like this bad. And and it's bad on 2 fronts. And I think it's worth maybe like I'll suggest these 2 fronts, see if you guys agree, and we can kind of like maybe align our criticisms a little bit in a constructive way. Is not that there's any saving this, but that we can construct our criticism. Not that the criticism itself is.
We're at least going to be well thought out in our hatred.
Yeah.
We're not gonna,
I think there's like storytelling issues where they just made kind of a bad sequel and broke a lot of really fundamental storytelling and movie making rules, or maybe stuck to the bad rules of like how to make a cash grab sequel. Yeah. And then on the other hand, there's like ideological things that are just like really horrific about this movie. I don't know.
See, well, okay, this might be going down the ideological route a little earlier than we thought, but I feel like a lot of people would say, why it's a kid's movie? Why such the strong feelings about it, right? And I said, like, how much I love Wreck-It Ralph, which go back and watch that episode. It special place in my heart. It's about opposing forces. Ralph needs to learn to embrace his role as a villain, embrace what he was created to do in the world he's created, and how that makes everything better when he learns to get along with all those things. And it's a beautiful message. It's a heartwarming message. He sacrifices himself for his friend afterwards. And I could not think of a movie that would do the exact opposite message of that, which is Ralph Breaks the Internet. The whole story arc is like, let go of your friend, man, because she's holding you back, this person that you found. And she wants to game jump. Like the whole thing you're not supposed to do in the first one is her whole story of like, well, I think I want to do it because this is who I am inside. It's like, that's now the thing. It's not I'm created for a purpose and for my game and for this war. It's like,
why would I wonder if there's more to life?
It makes me feel like when they made this movie, they were thinking, like almost overtly, we do not like the message of Wreck-It Ralph from 2010. It's 2018 now. Let's undo it all and do the exact opposite message. And it it's so frustrating.
I think that's the big part of it. And what you said about making on purpose a cash grab too, a bad sequel cash grab, it feels that way because I feel like a lot of Disney movies, at least the good ones, are thinking long term and like, what's the life of this? And this thing, like probably even 2-3 years after it was made, is so dated in terms of the references and everything.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing in it that really stands the test of time.
Even now, it's the movie's from 2018, and the internet looks like, all right, you're doing 2018 internet. You're not doing whatever it is.
Well,
which like,
and it's really spectacular that they were able to manage it so poorly, because even Aladdin, which is filled with nothing but pop references, because they just kind of like didn't rein in Robin Williams at all. Like he's just riffing on all of these characters that are contemporary for us, but like my kids don't know who Arsenio Hall is. They don't, like none of these things land, but it's so like it's done in character and it's executed well. And the other thing, it's not satirical. Like it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not cynical, right? Like there's nothing cynical about Robin Williams' craziness. It's full of enthusiasm and fun. And so you don't have to know who Arsenio Hall is because it's just like this crazy, fun, zany thing. And in this, it's so cynical from top to bottom. The entire thing is this like referendum, and which in a way is meta because the internet is very cynical, but like making a story for children that's trying to push the cynicism on them is like just dark, man. And
well, Micah, can you unpack that the cynicism around that? Like where do you see that? Because I like For our audience, like where do you notice these things that people may not pick up?
Well, the entire tone of the humor of this film is the humor of an adult, like making cynical satire of the world to other adults. Like I don't get the sense that this movie was made to speak into children's lives at all. And the humor is all self-referential to the internet and how like dumb and lame and kind of like droll and brain numbing the internet is, which like why kids have not been on the internet in this way. Also, they've never known anything but the internet. And so like the idea that like you're rolling it out, it just feels like it was written for people who experienced the rollout of the internet. Yeah. And kids didn't experience the rollout of the internet. They've just been raised in it. And then it also is nothing but fan service. Yeah. And this is another thing. You'll if you remember, there's an Indiana Jones movie that I blocked mostly out of my mind that not the one that I haven't seen at all, which is
Crystal
the fifth
Skull.
one. But the fourth one, Crystal Skull. Like I don't know if you remember that, but there's no story in there because the whole thing is just fan service and callbacks. And it makes
remember that thing we did before? We did that again, right?
Let's
remember
do
that?
it again, but with less motivation and less interest and older actors that are like less capable of doing the gags anymore. And it's like it just feels the same through this whole thing. And like one of my notes just says like this whole movie is nothing but humor rewrites. It's like it's a humor pass and then a humor pass and then a humor pass. And you can tell like when you look at the bylines, you can tell like, oh, they brought in these people just to like punch up the humor. It's nothing but punch ups top to bottom because the story is so just completely lacking. And it's, and like you guys, the number one cliche like plot device is you need to raise money. You need to raise money for your sick aunt, right? Like if it's just like some dumb comedian engine and it's like it's Chris Farley and David Spade and they need to raise money. It's like, great. Like I'm here for Chris Farley and David Spade. Like the plot is really just an excuse to get them to do, to be dumb,
Tommy Boy. Yeah, Tommy Boy, the plant's gonna go under, like go sell a bunch of brake pads, man. Like we need to go on a road trip. Perfect.
But the crux of this movie is Penelope is gonna die. And then how does it end? They just changed the code because they asked nicely. And it's like, what? It's a little bit like The Last Jedi, right? It's like you just come along and you unwrite the entire corpus of the whole IP because it conveniently fits like your gatekeep, girl boss, gaslight narrative.
Yeah. And you make Ralph the bad guy.
Right. And not in a way that he's a misunderstood bad guy, but that like he really is a piece of crap. Why is he a piece of crap? Because he does absolutely everything that Penelope asks him to do and does nothing but look out for her interests. And now he's a giant jerk for doing. I'm sorry, I'm on a rant because I just
it's a good example of the cynicism of it because like I feel like this is what a lot of the kids movies of this range were doing is they were like subverting like, hey, this character that you love, they're actually the villain because here's their flaw and their insecurity, and we're just gonna make it why like we're gonna turn the whole project upside down. He was learning to like the past movie, he was learning to love himself. It's the fact it's cynical about the first movie that it comes from is the thing that gets my goat so much on this movie. Right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm writing about that too.
All right. Sorry, I just went on my Jordan, go.
Yeah, it's definitely dark and cynical, but like what the stuff that is juxtaposed with this weird like let's try to get in as many gags as we can, which I hate in kids movies. Like I hate all the stuff that they try to put in for the parents. Like gosh, I think like one of the first times I noticed it was like a trailer for like a Chipmunks movie, and like one of the characters was like was saying shake what your mama gave you or something. I'm like, I can't do this. Like this whole movie is nothing but those gags. It's really annoying. And like they I don't know, the whole weird thing where they try to cram all the Disney princesses in there, that was really
speaking of cynicism, man.
Yeah, there was that was super cynical, but then like they put so much work into that. Like apparently I was watching with my wife Lacey, and she's looking it up, and I'm like, those are all like the original actors, except for a couple of the ones that are dead that came in just to do a couple of lines. You're like, well, they put so much into this.
Well, and it is amazing because I think and look, I don't know Jennifer Lee. I know very little. I know the body of her work. I know the thrust the movies have taken since she became executive producer on all these things. And so I can see some through lines. And I've read a couple of her statements, which are that she is very cynical about the corpus of Disney work, which makes me wonder, why the hell are you the executive producer of Disney? And they do this all the time where they bring in people that hate the corpus of the franchise. They did it with Star Wars. They did it with Marvel. They've done it with Disney. They did it with Superman. Like, they bring in people who despise what these characters stand for, what this brand stand for. And they go, here, why don't you just be in charge for a while? And it's like if someone hated my family and wanted them to die. And I said, well, why don't you drive on the road trip? And we won't have safety belts. We'll just let you decide where we go. And it's so evident. And then anyway,
well, I want to unpack that, because I think the Disney princess part, Vanellope ends up there, and it's so 2018. I think it's 8 years later. We're kind of tired of the you don't need a man thing. They're doing all that. You need a big strong man to save you, right? In 2018, it was like, oh, that's kind of clever. We're actually kind of poking fun of that, but I wasn't seeing it for the cynicism of what it was. Now it always just seemed like kind of a clever gag commentary or whatever. But I think now for me, the fact that idea about these movies has been so played out. And to the point where we decided to start a whole dang podcast about there's actually beauty and truth in all these movies that we want to actually celebrate. To just go back and see where they're going to be denigrate the whole animal companions thing, the magic hair, all the rich symbolism and all these things. They're just going to be this is just stupid, and all you need is a man, to the point where it ends by they have to emasculate the hell out of Ralph at the end of the movie.
Yeah. I love it because they're okay, so what's wrong with the world is that male insecurity creates these faceless dupes that just follow around a Pied Piper. And what they really need is therapy, which we know doesn't work.
But another movie we're having Jordan on that ends in a therapy session.
Yeah, so they actually say what he really needs is therapy, but since he won't do that, what we'll do is we'll just lead him by the nose to this conclusion. And so they turn into this faceless mob of insecure males who eventually what they need to do
create a giant insecure male monster.
A giant insecure male monster who is King Kong, who represents the entire motion picture industry, right? And then he has a hard conversation. Once again, one of these movies where the climax is a conversation, which is how it's driven by somebody who just likes to talk instead of get things done. And so they have a hard talk where he realizes really he is the problem of everything. And let me just decide not to be. And
then the monster just disappears. That was the other thing.
Monster disappears.
We're skipping out the villain comeuppance, but the monster just disappears. There's no...
So then he free falls so that he can be caught by a dress. So he gets literally cross-dressed, turned into a female, and then put into a coma so that then he can be awakened with a homosexual kiss from an animal, right? So it's everything. If you could be more cynical about a hero and what they really need, I don't know how you would do it. And I thought it was bad when they took Woody and they were yeah, we know you're the sheriff and you keep saving the day, but now it's time for you to sit down, shut up, and actually remove your voice and give it to someone else. And then I thought it was bad with Cars 3 when it's okay, you need to sit down, shut up, and watch someone else win. That's what's really good for you. And that's a hero. That's the model of a hero. And sorry, I'm on another rant, but it's it's this constructionist, zero sum, cynical, emasculate. It's hateful is what it is. And there's nothing about it that says here, you can actually do something great or better. And then at the end, what happens is we just sort of pass a Bechdel test and do Deus Ex Machina, and everything's fine for the character who is done nothing but have people fight like hell to give her everything she wants from the beginning.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Go, Micah.
It's infuriating. All right.
I thought when you were saying the therapy, because it doesn't effing work, and you were apologizing to Eric for being a therapist. I didn't realize you were apologizing for language.
No, what Eric does is behavioral therapy, right?
Yeah, I know.
What I mean is, and Eric, you can talk to this, is the therapy industry, like the complex, is what, 80-90% people that just affirm you and just like...
That's the big push, yeah. And it's not...
What you do is not just affirmation. You actually bring people in, you have desired outcomes, and you help them achieve them.
And there's a desire to want to change. There's a desire of acknowledging, like, hey, here's what I messed up. I get specific about these things. I figure out what's actionable to actually, like, make some changes around it. But I think it also, like, the depiction of this type of ending where... It happened in Encanto too. We discussed it with you, Jordan. Like the light bulb goes off and the character realizes all the things that they did wrong and they feel bad about it and they have this cathartic moment and it just oversimplifies the problems. It's like you got decades of issues. You have decades of missteps and transgressions that you've had. And it's not just a like, wow, I'm sorry. And then, okay, cool. We can just go back to normal. It's like Aslan in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when they say, like, can we get Edmund back from the White Witch? And he's like, we can do it. This is going to be harder than you think. Like, there is going to be a real cost to this. And this is not, this kind of gives the impression of it's not the real cost. We got to have a tough conversation and feel bad and realize, like, I just need to let this go in this very constructionist matter because I can see it from your perspective and now I can set aside my perspective, it's all that zero sum stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's that also that like idolization and deification of education that what people think therapy is just like being educated correctly. Yeah. And if I just...
Well, I mean,
I receive the correct gnosis, and like it's a Gnostic thing where like if I just get the correct understanding, then I will course correct and I'll just operate correctly. And that's not the experience, right?
No, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, I think it actually might be the experience because I think in some ways, therapists, mental health workers are becoming the secular clergy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're a Gnostic clergy.
Yeah. Back in the day, it was like, I go to my pastor, I go to like a spiritual leader, someone who has values with it. And I think it is true, which is not how I view therapy. It's not how I view my role. It's not the things I'm an expert in. But I think a lot of people view it as I need to go talk to someone about my problems and purge myself of all the angst and all the things I'm frustrated with and the feelings I don't know what to do with, which is a spiritual question. I think people see mental health workers in that way. And I think a lot of people are getting into the field because that's kind of what they want to do is be that person, which is, causes some problems. I see a lot of problems with it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is people are treating it as confession, basically.
Well, yeah, I think they treat it as confession. They treat it as like something's off. I need to go get some guidance from an enlightened person. And man, I can't think of something more dangerous than someone who fashions themselves that enlightened person who I'm just going to go in and tell you. Like I hear people when they talk about like, why do you want to get a therapist? It's like, well, I just want to be able to tell families how they should operate. It's like, what do you know about how families should operate? Like,
yeah, what's this should stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you know about like how that family specific? I don't know this family. I'm here to like get to know them and figure that out. Yeah. I can, maybe give some ideas, but like, I'm like, I need to learn. It's that type of ego is a bit of a problem. And it's not everyone.
Well,
I think there's a lot of
and I think that like underneath that, there's this idea. So like the sort of like classical perspective is, I start off as a mess and broken and fallen and better. That's sort of the classical standpoint. And especially that's the hero's journey, right? Like I'm not everything I could be and I could do better. But the modern Gnostic standpoint is you are divine and wonderful and perfect.
Yeah.
And anything that's wrong with you is actually the abnormal thing. The fact that everything isn't perfect and wonderful
yeah.
is what's abnormal.
And anyone who says there's something wrong with you is the enemy who's trying to pull you back.
And there is no
system.
doing better. You just need to purge this impurity so that you can be the magical creature that you already are. And like, we know what that looks like and we can dictate that versus this, like, we're all kind of gross and broken and misshapen and lost in the woods and we're all just trying to do better, you know?
But the thing is, we don't know what it looks like. I think that's the thing is like people, I see people when they're going down that road, and sometimes is in their own type of therapy. I can hear like just the way they're kind of talking about trying to make sense of life. It's, they're trying to build the plane as they're flying it. Like it's, well, this piece goes here and yeah, I guess I should just be like this, but it's not working. And the whole thing is, anyway, it was a strange rabbit trail,
but I think it's at the root of the, like we said, like there's story problems where they just kind of put together a like substandard story.
Yeah.
Like they eliminated their own stakes. The stakes of like getting money are kind of cliche.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot of cliches that they do. They do Deus Ex Machina. They set up weak scenes. Like they remove, because they are compelled by their faith to pass the Bechdel test, which has nothing to do with writing a good story. There's nothing about the Bechdel test that includes like, oh, will this be narratively compulsive? It's this made up thing by an activist that people have glommed onto, like it's going to make a good movie. And you can tell when it's used in a movie because it makes for bad scenes. Yeah. Two characters sitting around being nice to each other, whether they're the same sex or not, is uninteresting. And so when Penelope meets Shank, it's completely uninteresting. They immediately like each other. They immediately want to help each other. All they do is compliment one another. Like, that's great in real life, but it's super uninteresting. And then I think in real life, if you have, like, there's like an ideal ratio of like pleasant to unpleasant interactions that makes for a good relationship. And it's not 5 out of 5 good interactions.
Yeah.
Like it's some negative interactions. Like you need a couple in there. You can't just be homogenous or it's boring. And then you'll create chaos in order to try and make something good out of it. So Shank and Penelope's relationship is completely uninteresting. And it's because, and I've seen behind the curtain, I know how these rooms go. They go, well, this scene has to pass the Bechdel test. And it's like, says who? Like who that, what Oscar award-winning film did Miss Bechdel write? Or Dr. Bechdel, whatever, right? Like,
what?
It's just
so.
Anyway,
what is exactly the Bechdel test? Because I've heard it thrown around before, and I kind of have an idea what it is. But I'm curious to know more of it.
It's two female characters talking to each other on screen.
Okay,
talking to each other on screen, not about a male, and not like with a male. So like the feminist critique is that, and look, it might be accurate. I don't know. Is that you can watch a movie and you'll never see two females on screen at the same time talking about something that isn't either about a male or about something a male is doing. And so there's this idea that they can't be like in disagreement, like make Shank an asshole.
Yeah.
Right.
You can still pass the Bechdel test.
Like that character could be so much more interesting if she's like not easy to get along with, which for a like street racer in a game called like Racing Slaughter or whatever it is, like that might fit that character a little bit more for them to have like some edge. They're not the easiest to get along with, but hey, they got something that like I feel inspired by, even though like there's just so many other ways you can do it.
Or if Penelope, when she shows up in the track, is not as good as the best racer in the universe. It's like all she's ever done is race in a 1982 racing game.
Yeah.
She's a kid.
Yeah,
like,
racing in Mario Kart is not the same as Slaughter Race. Like, these are different. Yeah.
Anyone ever play F1 or pole position? You remember that game?
No.
It was impossible.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because all those characters, or at least from what I remember, getting it in fragments a lot of the time is they like there was the one kind of mean looking racer that's like everything is all about TED Talks and how he's and all this stuff. Which I mean, it's funny because it's ironic, but it's also like every one of these characters is nice in this like badass game that they even reference it as,
oh, it's like, all the degenerates with a heart of gold, right?
Yeah. But even Ralph references it as that death trap, whatever game. It's like, well, it didn't really seem that much of a death trap. The most threatening thing was the shark coming out of the sewer, I guess. But
right. They couldn't even put a real edge on Slaughter Race, right? They even had to like soften it with all these like characters are really like they're it's coded as like they're misunderstood. They're the outcasts of society that really are in touch with something more important. It's very constructionist.
And so like again, and these are like structural issues, even though they are, some of them are rooted in ideology, because I think the Bechdel test is an example of like, this is like an ideological idea that actually does not ever touch grass when it comes to crafting a story.
Right.
And if the point of a story is to tell a compelling narrative, then like I don't want anyone's ideology in the way at all. And it feels like it is. So anyway, there are some
okay. Let me steel man, because I can hear the other side going like, well, because the critique always is like, well, everything has an ideology in there already. Like you're already like, even by the story you're choosing to tell, you're already putting that in there. What's your response to that?
Well, Jordan, you're the guest. I'm going to throw you under the bus. What's your response to that?
Well, I think people probably wouldn't like to hear this, but some ideologies are better than others.
There you go. And how would you know? Like, how might you know that one's better than another?
That's a good question. I mean, for me, obviously, my faith is my conviction. And so my understanding of the world and worldview is different than, granted, I'm a straight white male, but I don't watch a show and think, oh, all these girls do is they talk about boys. Like, that's never crossed my mind ever. So I think even the ideology that you're interpreting things with also affects it.
Mm-hmm.
Quick break from the show, everyone. Let's take a breather, get grounded. I'm going to do my therapy thing with you while we get centered again and come back to reality. Just a reminder to like, comment, subscribe, and that we have a certain perspective coming in. We hope you are enjoying it. We hope you're learning to see movies in a different way. Please join us in the comments. Let us know what you think. If you want to jump on board the hate train with us on this one, or if you want to tell us why we're actually the one being idiots and what we're missing, we love to hear that too. Conversation is good. So please let us know. And thanks for being with us. Back to the show.
Yeah. I would say another way that I find that some ideologies are better than others is one, like, are they self-correcting? Like,
Yes.
is there anything like, do they only seek to externally correct, or do they self-correct?
Yeah.
And practiced, the misapplication of an ideology is not the ideology. So the actual ideology of Christianity is self-correcting, and it's quite explicit. Like, don't go out there and correct everybody else. Granted, I know.
Don't look at the speck in your brother's eye. The plank in your eye goes.
The plank is in your eye.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even when it comes down to like the moral teachings of Christianity, Paul is really explicit where he says, like, look, this doesn't apply outside your walls, because those people are not living according to your rules. So you cannot judge them according to your rules. Once you come into the walls, of which everyone is welcome, that's when you go, hey, now that you're in here, here's how we think you can be better than you are now. Right. And not this Gnostic idea of like, you're born this divine, wonderful soul, and you've just like ruined yourself, and like, let's get back to zero. It's like, no, you start at zero, and we all really are zero. It's someone else who gives us value. Like, it's self-correcting.
Right.
And then there's other ideologies in which, people outside of your walls, it's perfectly okay to defraud them, abuse them, whatever. Yeah. Things like Islam and Mormonism both explicitly say, like, if you're outside of these walls, like, we can treat you worse than we treat people inside the walls. And in Christianity, it's the opposite, where they say, hey, you actually are going to be more critical of people inside your walls than outside. Is this the way it plays out in the world? Almost always no. But that is an abuse of the ideology and not the actual ideology. So I think those are some ways you can say is how superior or inferior an ideology might be to another. And so one that does nothing but affirm inside and judge outside, is a bad one.
It's destructive, right? It's affirming, and it doesn't last. I heard a thing that says like, traditions are experiments that succeeded and carried on for a long period of time. So like these things last. Not there's not problems, and not that it's not like there's room for critique and all this stuff. Like we can have some of these things. I was also thinking like, all right, if every movie like, I think the other thing that bugs me is like, if you have an ideology and you want to share. You want to tell a story, tell a parable from a perspective. I get the critique. We all have a perspective and a worldview, and that's going to come out in like the stories you tell in the characters. Absolutely, right? But what this does is it takes the characters from an old movie that you know and love, which has a different message, and it says, I'm going to cram this ideology, this message into this story and make a Frankenstein monster out of it that's going to like patch all the things together to say the thing I want it to say, which is not true to who these characters are. It's not, it's you're tacking all this other stuff on, and it's just a mess of everything. It doesn't, it wouldn't be my cup of tea, but if you want to tell like the very postmodern constructionist story, like I can get down for a weird art house movie that's kind of like all over the place and experimental and saying all sorts of things. Like I can do that thought experiment. But if you want to say we're going to take this idea that comes in this weird kind of art house kind of flavor, and we're going to cram it into a mainstream movie with characters you already know and love. And it's why like every time they're making a new sequel or the new Snow White movie, and they're cramming all this ideology into this old story, which we don't like anymore, and we're going to subvert it. It's I just feel like Ralph Breaks the Internet is it's the epitome of all of that I'm so frustrated with.
Yeah, I think that's the same reason why, on the flip side, why so many, at least until recently, Christian movies were so bad.
Yeah,
because
same thing.
It was the message was first rather than the story, and whenever that's the primary objective of whatever the movie or project is, it's always going to be worse. Like, you want those convictions to come through the story, through the character, have them go through some sort of journey, and then you could assess for yourself, as opposed for them hitting you over the head with it. That's anytime somebody sets out to make a movie where its only objective is to kind of push a certain message or ideology,
it gets really preachy.
Yeah,
and it doesn't, you can agree with it even, it's just a bad movie.
Oh yeah. And some of the worst movies I've seen are these very preachy, ideology first Christian movies, and they've subverted the strength of the narrative in order to tell a story, which is, that's another description for propaganda. But I do want to go back and touch on the idea of ideology, though. Another thing that separates an ideology from, let's say, maybe like a worldview or perspective is that within an ideology, there is no room for dissent or disagreement or conversation. And that's another thing that I find, and within what someone would accuse me of having as an ideology, I go, no, I don't think so, because there's a huge amount of political diversity, ethnic diversity, socioeconomic diversity. Like there's a lot. We are not a homogenous group.
Yeah.
We are not all in lockstep. And all you have to do is just sit around and be a part of any local church for a little while, and you'll hear the rancor going on, which could be seen as like, disunity. But also, like, that's actually what unity looks like.
Yeah,
is that like we're going to fight with each other,
differences and ideas, and use the process and our faith to guide us to what the right thing we're supposed to do is.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't get through a single day with my wife of perfect unity.
Yeah.
Let alone like a whole community of people,
which would be weird and problematic if you did. Like everything is.
It would be like a scene that passes the Bechdel test where all we do is agree, and it would be boring,
Well, when it lasts, I think that's the thing, is like the reality is when Vanellope and Shank are having that like conversation overlooking slaughter, whatever it's called, like, loving being in this new world, and like their alignment around things, like, that doesn't last. That's a honeymoon period. Any relationship, someone you connect with, like if you're in any sort of close, intimate relationship, you're going to start butting heads. And that's the interesting thing, is like, kind of what the movie could be at the beginning when her and Ralph are kind of butting heads. Ralph wants to stay and he wants to do the same thing, and Vanellope wants to get out. She doesn't like life is predictable. We are friends, we are family. How are we going to better each other for our differences, which is what the whole first movie's about. I keep saying that, but this is about, well, why we probably need to break up, and we can't be as close friends as we used to.
Well, one of the grand ironies, I think, is that the cynicism that goes into like the princess is downloading this solution thing for Vanellope that is not the way forward, that it does all work. Like being a princess, looking into an important body of water, singing a song.
Oh yeah.
And then ultimately, like, it is by a process of self-emasculation and complete neutering that Ralph saves the day. But a big strong man does still save the day. She is still dependent
by sacrificing himself for
right. And it just happens to look like castrating himself, but it's like the grand irony is like, you were still other than the Deus Ex Machina of just sort of like eliminating the stakes of the movie by just programming them out, like even in their like self-immolating critique of the structure of these movies, they still wound up doing it. Oops.
When she, okay, you have to sing a song looking at a body of water again, like they're being so cynical about that thing, like
right.
And then Vanellope goes to do what is maybe the worst Disney song in the last 20 years, where she sings about what she most desires is to join a degenerate gang and become a criminal and join the underworld,
which is cute, but it's beyond the irony. I think what's funny is that it does speak to this whole sort of postmodern critique thing, is that it's like, hey, just because you don't get it doesn't mean it isn't the fundamental bedrock of existence. And so someone coming along going like, oh, these stupid cliche things, these structures from these fairy tales are meaningless. It's like, well, of course it's fitting that it does actually still work, because it's not like someone just sat around and said, how can I construct a bunch of cliches that enslave and control and indoctrinate people for the next 5,000 years? It's like, no, these were emergent observations and stories that were retold, not because of a conspiring room of social constructionists that you're just subverting suddenly for the first time. It's like, no, these are emergent. These are reflective of the way humans behave in the world and learn things and grow. And so, of course, the fact that you don't understand it and you didn't come up with this brand of constructionism doesn't mean it's not going to work. Still works. It's still bedrock reality.
Yeah. One other thing that maybe it's just as I'm getting older, but just like the idea that the person or the character in a film or story that actually likes their life is the bad person.
Right.
All the time. Granted, I know they're not doing a ton of things, but the person that's happy with life is like, oh, well, they're clearly a fool.
To go to work, and even then they make Ralph like complain about going to work, whereas the first movie, like, you loved going to work, like that was the thing, is like you embrace your role in the created order again,
destroying thinking to be better, and
the kind of pulling us back from the like all the kind of philosophical like depth we've gotten into, and just bringing it back to like the movie itself, and maybe this kind of wrapping it up too, like at the end when Ralph breaks apart his cookie that Vanellope gave him in the first one, and it's like, okay, well, we're just gonna split this thing up now. Like, again, just the symbolism, like you're having to literally break the heart in order to, like, now you can have this, and that is supposed to be seen as a good thing. Again, it's just sometimes like the symbolism is so on the nose. Maybe it's meant to be that. Maybe it's meant to be like, you gotta have your heart broken, but again, you're undoing the whole thing that was special from the first one.
Well, and also it comes back to the zero-sum mentality that underlies all this, is that like there's only one heart, so you each get half a heart. Like even that idea in itself is so sad. Like you guys are just halves now. Like even with my wife, we're not two halves. We're two wholes, and there's so much abundance in our relationship that new people come out of it. Like, it's not just broken pieces of a zero sum. There's only one heart, guys. It speaks to how sort of tepid and sad this cynical worldview is.
Yeah.
Wow. More hearts. They both have whole hearts.
Yeah, it could have easily been like, all right, she made me a heart in this new one. Now I'm gonna,
I'm gonna make her one, right? Why can't I imagine?
Like, it's almost like a sending my daughter off to college type thing. Like, hey, I'm just gonna be with her, and I'm like that. I feel like that would be the if I really wanted to try to fit it in a way that like I could kind of get on board with, it's that like I'm sending my daughter to college. She has this new life she needs to go blossom and kind of be herself with. That doesn't fit within the whole rest of everything else they're doing. So I don't think that's what they were trying to say. But like if I'm trying to fit it into something,
I think you're onto something, and I think it's because at one point Shank does say like, "Hey, good dad" joke right at the very end, because he is in that role. Because I think this sort of juvenile, entitled little view that Vanellope is running within is the viewpoint of a teenage girl projected out into like a perpetual teenage girl's attitude and worldview. And what she really wants, she doesn't want a best friend. She wants a dad. And I, in a previous relationship, realized after actually a lot of therapy that really helped. It was behavioral therapy and it was EMDR and things like that, that we were not in an interdependent relationship. We were in this codependent relationship where we were not mates. I was raising her. Like it really was. And I think a lot of people are going like, I really just want a dad that's going to affirm me and fortify me and then support me and send me out. I don't actually want a mate. And we talked about this in the Moana episode as well. And I think a couple others about this idea of like, we're just going to be friends forever. And that like, that's a teenage girl's idea of reality. Because as soon as Ralph meets a mate and Vanellope meets a mate, they're done being best friends. Like you have a new best friend and it's your mate. And so it's funny to me that like all Ralph is trying to do in this whole movie is friend zone himself. And even that's not appropriate because she doesn't really need a friend. What she needs is a dad that's just going to pave the way and then like let her have everything she wants. Like she wants a teenage girl's version of a like really sweet sugar dad. And this idea of being friends forever is just a fart. Like it doesn't exist. It's a complete farce. And it's the conception that like a 13-year-old girl would have of the way reality should, create, populate itself, pave itself down the way for him.
Yeah, I did as we get to the end. I know we kind of did like the villain comeuppance, which is Ralph is the giant insecurity monster, and we kind of covered that. I did note that at the very end of the movie, when Ralph's back in his little video game station, again, the symbolism here is just so on the nose. Rather than an AA meeting, because anything resembling some sort of organized religion, like we got to get rid of that. They're doing a book club where they don't understand Dostoevsky. Like Zangief says, like, do you think Dostoevsky knew he was being an unreliable narrator? And there's like, oh, we don't know. It's like, yeah, you guys don't understand classic literature, obviously.
I do.
Yeah. The most like damning self-referendum possible.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was only put in because Zangief is a Russian character from Street Fighter. And what's a Russian author? Dostoevsky's a big one. Let's go to that. You don't know anything else about him. It fits that, but like not realizing the self-own that is there.
Yeah. I just, the villain of this movie is male insecurity.
Yeah.
And so what it really needed, its comeuppance was that it was like analyzed and talked about. We talked about our feelings, and then we got in a dress, and then we put ourselves in a coma, and then we kissed a male animal and learned our lessons, so that the proper place for Ralph is to go back where he was and just be content with things and just bake badly so that other people can go out and live their dreams.
You can use any pie.
And so that was his comeuppance, and I think that's telling for the cynical worldview that spawned this film.
Yeah.
And the real villain here is you guys for compelling me to watch it. And so your comeuppance is you had to put up with my like uninterrupted raving. So I apologize.
No.
Yeah, I think that what we could all glean with this, especially with Ralph in the dress, is that Cat Williams was right all along about all this Hollywood.
God bless that man.
Right. I did hear from some friends who like listen to the podcast, like, you're kind of doing this, like everything comes to light, like bringing to light all this old stuff and all this beauty and all this stuff that was there. Like, I do think you need to juxtapose it with like where it doesn't work and where it's going the opposite. I mean, I snarkingly made the joke at the beginning of the episode, but I do think this movie is a good example of when you're trying to do the cynical, subvert, turn everything on its head. Yeah, this movie is made only 8 years later, and it could not be doing any more of a U-turn from the original message of the first movie. And again, I love Wreck-It Ralph so much. I think it's the one that was on repeat forever. It's got such a special place. Livelihood and vitality behind that movie just fits so well. And this is just total 180 from that.
And
go ahead.
No, you go. You're the guest, and I've been talking over you the whole time.
I was going to say, do you think that they wrote it in any sort of thought that these kids that saw the first one have now aged to a point where this is where they are at in life, and this is what their worldview is? Or do you think it's just,
I think that was the thought.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
I think it was a the kids who saw Wreck-It Ralph loved it, or were 8, 9, 10 years old, and now they're teenagers and angsty, and let's kind of teach them about the world kind of stuff. But again, I think it just, I mean, you watch it now 8 years after that, and it just feels dated. It feels like, all right, you're doing like there's no way this movie has any lasting value. I mean, even the fact we're doing this on the podcast probably feels like, oh, that's a deep cut. We hadn't kind of thought about.
I haven't thought about that. I forgot that in a second one.
That one for,
yeah. Well, and it is like, I wonder how and when it went so wrong, because almost the entire team is the team from the first one. And so as I'm trying to like sleuth out where did it go horribly wrong, I can't help but think that it went wrong from some kind of edict on where the film needed to go, because it's like, it's the same writers, same directors, same talent. Like we know that they're phenomenal at their craft. Yeah. And so like let this not be some kind of indictment. Like these people aren't great at making movies.
Definitely not. No. The story from the get-go was all pointed in this direction. So everyone's trying to do their best to like make this very like ideologically preachy thing work. And, like good performances, animation, all that, like, okay, they come up with some clever ways of depicting it, but it's like, because it's so driven in that direction, it can't help but just feel fragmented of trying to cram it all into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was the first one pre or post this Disney executive? I forgot her name.
That's a good question. Let me look.
It was 2010.
I want to say it was pre, because she kind of hit the scene with Frozen, but I might have that.
So it's kind of a Cracker Barrel situation with Disney, I guess, with her stepping in.
Yeah, it was.
Apparently, a story as old as time now. We keep seeing it the last decade.
Yeah, go check out our Ratatouille episode, because that's what we talk about.
No, she was one of the writers in the first one.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know if she was one of the executives.
I even just think culturally, though, like the first one, 2010, there wasn't this big push towards like we got to add this other stuff in, and so like, I'm sure ththose voices were there, and I'm not, I'm saying like the voices in some of those critiques like don't have their place, but when it's like, you're welcome. Because I feel like those cynical critiques, you can't build anything. You can't build a beautiful story. You can't build a world. You can't make the richness of the characters in that. You can only chip away at and tear down. And you have to do it by embodying other characters that you've already have established.
And I just say she was not an executive producer at that point. She was just one of the screenwriters. And so I think there's something that comes with unfettered executive power that can either make or break a movie.
Yep.
So anyway, I'll obviously never work for her if this ever gets back to her, but it's a bummer because some of these properties and jobs are probably pretty good. But yeah, and look, and there are some things that have happened under her watch that are pretty good. Like, and maybe down the road we'll talk about some of those. Like when we went over Frozen 1, like, and our verdict on Frozen was like,
it's good.
It's actually pretty good, and it's actually pretty full of Western classical canon, despite some of its accusations against it.
Yeah. But I just think
2 is another story. But
yeah.
They'll watch those.
But sneak in there. I did. Maybe to wrap up, Ralph's biggest insecurity of him being the problem is he just wants to keep Vanellope trapped in his little world. Gatekeep, right?
Yeah, so he gatekeeps. He gaslights her.
Yeah, and Micah, you were just on Jordan's podcast, which we should talk about in a second. Jordan, you said with your son, he loves Anna and Elsa. What was his phrase? I love her. I'm going to put her in jail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know where that's coming from, but trying to get him to pump the brakes on that as he gets older.
Go check out Micah's episode on the Gentleman Scofflaw Podcast with Jordan to see
my love language is incarceration, Dad. No,
exactly. No.
Well, Jordan, thanks so much for being on with us again.
This was
a ton of fun, and for throwing this movie at you with it. But I do love kind of getting your perspective. I'm just gonna rant a little bit. I hope this was at least entertaining.
It's fun. I'm glad to be able to come on and do it. And like I said, it was one of the first movies my son said he didn't want to watch, and made it clear that it wasn't the version he wanted. When we put on Wreck-It Ralph.
Well, your 3-year-old's got correct taste.
Yeah, it's very discerning.
Jordan, where can people go check you out? Go check out the Gentleman Scofflaw Podcast.
Yeah.
And what else are you up to these days?
So Gentleman Scofflaw Podcast is on anything you listen to podcasts on. You could also go to jordancrowder.com. That's where I post my portfolio and work for film and commercial directing. That also links to the podcast and everything else, and socials, all that kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Well, go check out Jordan's stuff. He's awesome, great friend. We have a blast. You're welcome back anytime. If there's whatever the next movie that gets thrown on that you guys are stuck on and you want to analyze, let us know. We'll come talk about it.
Right now, he's watching the Chipmunks movie from the 80s, the one where they're like adventuring around in a. So that's what he's watching in the other room right now, because we have that on DVD.
Nice.
So maybe we'll do that.
Nice.
That's a deep cut.
Physical medium, guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be big.
Yeah.
It will.
Well, Jordan, to wrap up, we've been asking our guests, what dad advice do you have for our audience, for people, anyone with kids? Any good dad advice you have in parting?
Turn off autoplay on all of your streaming services.
Very practical.
Yes. Good one.
Yeah.
Jordan's a media guy from the experts. We got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you get sucked into things you don't want to watch that way, and then they become things you have to watch over and over again. So
awesome.
How do you do that? Wait, real quick. Is that just in your settings on your Disney Plus or YouTube or whatever?
Yeah, each app has a settings, and I actually went through, and I got so frustrated I went through and did that to all of them one day. And then my wife got a new Netflix account because I canceled mine, and then I had to go do it all over again. So every time you sign into a new account, you have to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it. And also, hey, man, watch the credits. Those people worked hard on that movie. That's
for sure.
I'm and some of us like me are buried pretty deep in there. You're gonna miss me entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
Get some love for the below the line folks. That make it happen.
Yeah. And then there's always 20 minutes of the translated credits, which is fun too.
Man, those are those go a long time, right?
Can they somehow split the difference there? Why do we need?
How many languages are we gonna do this with, guys? Are we gonna be How inclusive do we need to be?
All right.
Well, you guys. Well, thanks, Jordan. We had a blast. I know we all need to get back to work for the day, but Jordan, we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. This was StoryDads. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
So thank you for listening to the StoryDads podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you are actually subscribed to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. If you want, hit that notification bell. Hit that like button too. Don't forget that. And leave a comment below. Tell us what you think. Only hateful comments, please.